Good evening, everyone. It's nice to have you with us today. Let me make sure I've got us on the right view. That fabulous music was the band Brogery. The musicians are Anita Anderson, Dave Bartley, Shira Kamen, and Jim Oakden in a medley of these tunes. And dances. The dance is Impropriety from Volume 1. The tune is Milson's Jig from Playford 1651. The CD is Impropriety Volume 1. Second dance, Through the Looking Glass. The tune is by Shira Kamen from 2002 called Downstream, and it's on Impropriety Volume 2. And the dance, the third medley in dance, is Another Improper Notion. Tune was arranged by Chris Sackett in 2006 from a 16th century Brangle. And the C part was written by Chris. Brooke joined the band on drum and bells. It's from Impropriety Volume 2, though they want to make you know that you should use the dance choreography in Volume 4, or the book 4. For an improved dance directions. And yes, of course, you can get all these and all the Impropriety CDs at cdss.org. Hello again. I'm Darlene Hamilton. We are the Historical Tea and Dance Society. And I want to introduce Lindsay Verbal, who's helping me with lots of things this evening. She'll be assisting us with showing media and asking questions and things like that. And the chat box is a very important part of this conversation, as always. If you're on Zoom, you want to go down below and open up your chat box. That's where you can follow along, but also ask your questions, because we have people helping. Renee Turner is following in Zoom, and she's going to make sure we get all those questions you're asking in the chat box. And then on Facebook, you can also ask questions in the chat box, because we have Larry Hansen helping us there. So, hey everyone, got a great team of people. It's great to have a great team of people. Stick around afterwards for the after talk. It's going to be posted on Facebook in the Historical Tea and Dance Society Friends page. Hopefully you're a member of that, or you registered and you got that link already. We are also going to be, sorry, I just got distracted. Somebody couldn't get in, and I want to make sure this person gets in. So anyway, we are going to be handling a lot of the questions in the after talk. So please always use the chat box, and we will get to all the questions. We know there's going to be a lot of questions and comments and all sorts of things this evening, so make sure you come to that. Thank you to Karen Axelrod for doing that amazing concert, and all her friends every Tuesday. We love that so much. Thank you, thank you. Let me talk to you a little bit first about this evening. Thank you all for coming. It's a little bit different for us because it's not just one person that we're featuring. We're actually talking about a particular subject. We have this forum where we come together to discuss dance every week, and we hope we can occasionally zoom in on topics of interest to our community at large. Tonight's talk is all about global terminology and positional calling. Global terminology uses language that refers to positions within the set without using role-specific terms such as ladies and gents, men and women, larks and robins. And positional calling is a newer term, a similar concept, and a slightly different strategy in which callers direct dancers based on where they stand in the set at the moment. So you'll often hear Brooke say, if you are here, now do this. There is so much we can discuss and that Brooke has to share. And so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to have Lindsay direct the questions. It's going to save us down on time for getting people up and having them personally ask the questions. But in the after talk, then we'll all be, together, and we might be able to do that a little less. So what we're going to talk about today is how global positional calling got their start, why many dance communities are looking to increase their use of global and positional calling, what global and positional calling looks like in practice and how to put them into practice. Like I said, there were a lot of questions. We are going to work on getting to all of them. So, but before we get to any questions, let me give you just a little background on Brooke. Brooke is an energetic community teacher whose specialties include programming, dance choreography, and teaching, calling with global terminology. Besides teaching ECD, she also calls contra and family and community dances. She organizes local and regional events and has been a program director for weekend and week-long camps and events. Lots of experience. Along with Chris Sackett, she has published 6 impropriety dance books and produced 7 CDs with the band Roguery. She just finished 6-year term as secretary of CDSS, and she's known for her warm yet commanding personality, clear teaching, creativity, and sense of whimsy. She teaches all over America and England and Australia, and there's nothing she likes more than when she's calling an evening dance and nobody ever notices that she didn't use gender terms. She loves teaching workshops about it, helping people understand it more, and that's what we have her here for today. Welcome, Brooke Friendly.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me again, Darlene. Yay.
It's great to have you. And
Yeah.
there's so much. We're just going to jump right in. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, thing 1, social change and politics in dance.
Yeah. So, first of all, changes in terminology and practices within this dance form are not new, and they are often tied to social change. Many of us read with amusement the historical books on dancing etiquette, and we can think it's quaint or chivalrous or about courtship, or we can think it's patriarchal and sexist. And today we wouldn't put up with a lot of the stuff in there, the rules and restrictions, especially for women. For example, you can't dance until you're asked. So that's definitely a shift from that. I just wanted to show this book. City Folk, English, Country Dance, and Politics of the Folk in Modern America by Daniel Walkowitz. And it focuses from the 1900s on. So it's a fun read. It's got a lot of interesting information, and as you can see, it's also talking about this dance form along with social change and politics. So when I first started, sort of the big upheaval was more around women's liberation, if you will. Some of the first books that I looked at said men and girls. Like, I don't think so. I don't think you get to be called a man and I'm called a girl. You can be called a boy and I'm called a girl. That's fine. But, that's not okay. There was still who can ask who to dance, not being, as a woman, I was expected to wait to be asked still in the early 80s, late 70s. And I was not interested in playing into that. So thankfully that's mostly gone, right? We used to have, there's still some events that are gender balanced, but a lot of events were gender balanced. And I remember back in the very early 2000s, when CDSS stopped gender balancing, a woman had written to the news saying, I'll come always dancing the man's role. I'll wear trousers the whole time. I just want to come dance at camp. And it spurred a whole bunch of conversation. And eventually, with the understanding that gender balancing actually was discriminatory to the majority gender, which was usually women. And it also assumes a binary world, which we are not. Thankfully, that is gone in most places. There's so many instances back when I was first dancing. It's like, oh, you know what? If there's more women than men, I'm going to tap out a man when it's my turn to come back in, as opposed to always being the women sitting out. Anyway, I think we have a video to show. This is just for fun, just to break things up. This was a community dance I did last year with Roguery. The tune is actually, you can just play it anytime, Lindsay. The tune is actually by Dave Bartley. Used for a different dance. That's my daughter in the black trousers and top and gray scarf. dances Lucky 7. You can see people are dancing in any direction. They just had people get up in a circle and dance. And this moment when you come to your partner, lost and found in the middle. You can do whatever you want with your partner. Swing, arm, do whatever. Etc. So, Lucky 7, just for fun. So next big social change aspect, if you will, gay liberation. The first usage of global terminology and who dances where was from Carl Whitman. And it was in the context of social change. We'll get to more of that later. But I just want to read you a few quotes from Carl. He talks about, he's quoted, the transcendent importance of art in social change. In one of his obituaries, Michael Bronsky wrote, "Dance, as taught by Carl, was an anarchist celebration of equality." And then in his 1977, Carl's 1977 dance manual introduction, he writes, "Dance has always taken on the contours of the times and assumed our philosophical attitudes, that one need not be married or escorted to take place on the dance floor, that we accept each other as people and for a moment at least leave behind the labels of homosexual, single, married, etc. All of us have the birthright to these dances." So I look at sort of the next, we're kind of in this new wave that's really driven in part by LGBTQ plus politics, which adds another layer to the idea of global terminology. We'll circle back to this toward the end of the talk. But that's it for thing one. So
Great. Yep. Just things.
Pardon?
Moving on to thing two before
we are, because
have any questions yet. All right. Thing two. Am I centering it fine? Whoops.
A little higher.
There. History of global terminology and Carl Whitman.
Yeah.
You talked about him when you were here last.
Yes. And if you want to see me get very emotional and cry talking about Carl Whitman and my introduction to the dance, feel free to go back and look at that video, which is, it's on Colin Hube's website, and I think it's also still on Facebook. So Lindsay's going to show some photos of Carl while I do a little bit of talking. This first one is his yearbook photo. You'll notice it says that he likes folk singing and dancing, and he plans to attend Swarthmore College, which he did, in fact. Then, you know, we're circling on to him as a writer and then him as a teacher. Anyway, in 1960, he went to Swarthmore. During the summers, he did civil rights work in the South. He was involved with Students for a Democratic Society in a leadership role. He co-wrote with Tom Hayden an interracial movement of the poor. Later, he would break with the SDS because of their homophobic views. But he was involved in all kinds of different political activities. 1967, he moved to San Francisco to work as a labor organizer, and he joined a commune of anti-draft activists. In 1969, he wrote the book Refugees from America, with a K, a gay manifesto, which is one of the most influential gay liberation writings of the 1970s. So he has good cred as a social organizer. He also has cred as a teacher. He is a certificated RSCDS teacher, Royal Scottish Country Dance Society teacher, by Miss Milligan. He started teaching in San Francisco around 1970. And then he moved to Wolf Creek. And I actually lost my Zoomy thing. So hang on a sec, where did it go? I've lost Zoom.
You might want to check behind the chat window or the participants window, sometimes there's a little thumbnail that hides behind it.
Yeah, well, everything's hidden right now. Oh, that's not it. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Yeah, I lost the photos. I lost, ugh. All right, well, I can't see myself. I'm gonna assume you're all still there. And no matter what I do, it's not there.
Are you able to go down to your tool window at the bottom and select the Zoom app from there? Should look like a little camera.
Tool window.
If you're on a Mac, if you hover down at the bottom, it should pop up. If you're on a PC, it will be the start menu down at the bottom.
Okay. Somewhere. Zoom, there we go. Yay, here I'm back. Hooray. Sorry about that.
Alan said you could check under the sofa as well.
And we
Check under the sofa. I'd have to leave the room for that.
And we still do see you, so no worries
Yeah.
there.
Whew. All right, so Miss Milligan, 1970, he started teaching dance in San Francisco. Then 1971, he moved to Wolf Creek, Oregon, which is about, I don't know, an hour from here north. He started a local community dance, which included intentional communities of gay men and lesbians, and also just people in the community. In another one of Carl's obituaries, Fagala Ben Miriam, who was one of the dancers there, wrote, "Back then, Wolf Creek was a diverse community of separatist dykes to flaming queers. There were not many occasions for the larger community to be together peaceably. Generally, our most successful gatherings were when we danced out in the barn under Carl's loving and spirited tutelage." So that's that. In 1980, he was the principal choreographer for the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And during all this time, he did a lot of environmental work and writing when he was living in Wolf Creek. So Chris Sackett actually danced with him in, I think, Corvallis. He also danced with him in the barn in Wolf Creek. Alex Dancer, who's I think here tonight, danced with him in Wolf Creek as well. The Ashland Country Dancers, which is the group, my local group, they started in about 1979 along, with using Carl's teachings. And there was a group also in Eugene and a group in Roseburg, Oregon. And they all banded together, if you will, under the Heather and the Rose to create just an umbrella organization using this kind of teaching. I think they're going to put a link down there if you want to check out that website. It's an old school website, just saying. In 1980, Carl and his partner Alan Troxler moved to North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham area. There he helped organize the first Gay Pride March, and Carl and Alan started the Sun Assembly group in North Carolina. And I think there's going to be a link for their website as well. They're still going today. And while he was there, he worked on a book of reconstructions of old dances called Sun Assembly, which he was not able to finish before he died in 1986. And it's still unpublished, unfortunately. But that's just a little bit about Carl's history. There's another link, an article about him that I believe they're going to post in the chat as well if you want to find out a little bit more. And there's also a couple pages in the City Folk book about Carl. So initially in the 1970s, Carl came up with the label. Well, actually, at the very beginning, he was teaching with using men and women as he learned RSCDS. And Alan challenged him and said, "Hey, look at the people in the room. Why are we using this language?" So he came up with red side, green side. And after a while, we determined that that was just something random to remember that had nothing to do with anything and was not helpful. And we came up with left file, left shoulder to the top, right file, right shoulder to the top. And I talked about this a little bit in my last talk. That works very well for written directions, and if everybody's on board with it, it works fine for teaching. And it's challenging because there's so many uses of the words left and the words right. along with people who have issues with those words. So when I'm teaching, I use, oh, you're on the porch side, you're on the fireside, or whatever is handy within that room at that dance.
So, Brooke, let me ask you, I hear a lot about the lavender group, that concept, and it includes, it seems like, contra and English country and many others. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that's a lot of what we're great.
Exactly, absolutely. So I talked about Heather and Rose being kind of an umbrella organization. Chris Ricciati, who may be on this call, I know he signed up. Anyway, he started a gay and lesbian dance, contra dance, in Providence, Rhode Island in 1987, I believe. And he hadn't met Carl yet. So he started this dance. There was a little bit of dance going on in various campuses. Then a little bit later, it was in 1992, I guess, changed the name of the group and also was encompassing more groups sort of under this umbrella to the Lavender Country and Folk Dancers. And one of the big shifts, one of the big reasons was, by calling it gay and lesbian dance, that's pretty limited. So Lavender is much more encompassing, more welcoming to bisexual folks, trans folks, etc. That was the impetus, my understanding from Chris's writing, behind that name change. And the Lavender group kind of hosts a bunch of other groups. In fact, I think there's one even in California. You can go on their website and see more about them. Chris Ricciati also wrote a paper called The Historical Perspective of Gender-Free Dancing. It's a work in progress, as you will see if you look at it. It's the most recent date that I saw was 2011. And it outlines history of same-sex dancing, including frontier cowboy mining saloon dances, segregated Mormon dances, gay square dance clubs, and much, much more through the formation of Heather and Rose and Lavender Group and beyond. So that's a little bit about that. And the beginning of it was contra dance primarily. In 1995, Rob Dobson and Michael Cicone, who danced with Carl in Oregon at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, they worked with Alan Troxler. He came up and helped them get an English dance series started in Jamaica Plain, where the Contra series was. So that's when that happened. Then I'm going to say like 2004 or so, a San Francisco series started, a Seattle series, New York, and really, very slowly, this is mostly Contra. Then 2012 seems to be when the whole gender-free Contra thing really kicked into high gear. And to a lesser degree, English country dance as well. So yeah, that's a little bit of history in a nutshell. Zooming right through.
Yeah, that's great. I think a lot of us didn't have that background. So I think that's wonderful. But now we're getting to the whole thing where we're at now, which is, here's thing 3.
Dancing the whole dance.
The whole dance.
Yeah, dancing the whole dance. So I think in a minute, Lindsay's going to put up a video, and I just asked, this is another different event that I did, and just look at the dancers and think, how much sense would it make to label people men and women? So go ahead and play that, Lindsay. I don't even know what the dance is. It might be a Scottish dance, actually. Even though they're not doing the footwork. So in a lot of settings like this, to me, it's just like, it's a no-brainer. It makes no sense to label people things that most of them clearly are not. Yes, queer contra. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat. I know I'm not supposed to look at the chat. I'll have to look at it later. So, so global terminology. For one thing, global terminology equals more concise. I'm doing an online callers workshop for a group of folks in the Southeast. I was supposed to go to Asheville, North Carolina in May, but couldn't, obviously. And so we put this together as an alternative, and it's actually like 8 or 10 sessions that we're having. I think it's kind of a cool new model that doesn't preclude a follow-up weekend of actual practice. So at any rate, our last module was Teaching and Learning Part 1. And I referenced Bruce Hamilton's booklet, CDSS booklet, Notes on Teaching Country Dance, which, if you're a caller, is a must-have. And some of the things he says are, be concise. Well, global positional calling uses fewer words in way more cases than not. Describe geography rather than people. That's all about global terminology and positional terminology. Give global directions. That is to say, talk to as many people at once as possible. And in this workshop that I did, we went through the figure poussette, the English figure poussette. And as an example, so the old way would be first man pull, second man push, which speaks to only 2 people, one at a time, and by implication the other 2 who are having something done to them. Moving on, you can say second diagonals forward. That speaks to 2 people at once, and by implication the other 2. You could say ones to the mirror wall, 2s to the clock wall, or tops to the mirror, that sort of thing, which is a fair amount of syllables, talking to 2 pairs at once. Or you could say counterclockwise. And that's about as global as you can get. And that says everything you need to know and talks to everybody at once. And we're not going to worry about that most people have digital watches. We can get over that. So global terminology equals more concise. Global or positional terminology also equals more inclusive, more welcoming, fewer barriers. So without gender-based language, it's much easier to dance with everybody in the room, with anyone, anywhere, no matter anything. To dance on either side, in either role, and you don't have to do translation, regardless of your gender identity or expression. And the people around you don't have to go, but wait, I'm confused. That person doesn't look like what I was expecting to come at me. That's not an issue because there's no references to that. I was looking online at a fair number of different things for preparing for this talk, and I'm sorry I don't have a link right now, but Ron's Contra Dances. There's a page where there's some discussion of this, and I'm just going to read the writing there because I think it's great. So not everyone identifies as he or she. Being called something you're not may not offend everyone, but for some people, the terms are a constant reminder that they are perceived by many as an other in our society. Contra dance is supposed to be a safe place for people, and having these constant reminders, known as microaggressions, of, hey, society doesn't like that I'm genderqueer or trans, etc., is at the very least annoying and at the most soul-sucking. There's also, the idea of gender terminology reinforces the idea that heterosexual is the only normal. So if you're trying to make an open space, and this is, a lot where, some of the LGBTQ politics, social change, if you will, is removing this stigma. It's great. So, yeah?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I just have a couple little, Contra has primarily been using role substitution names like Carl did for English at the very beginning, red and green. Larks and robins seems to be floating to the surface most often. So larks equals left equals, what was the gents role? Robins equals right equals what's the ladies role? Contra is a more role differentiated dance form than English. But within the last couple of years, it seems like just the last few years, some Contra communities, some callers are exploring positional calling. I imagine it's more challenging to do well than it is for English. It's perhaps more of an adjustment for established dancers. Perhaps not. I know I would prefer it as a dancer. We'll talk more about that later as well. And square dance patterns, not my area of expertise, especially singing squares, but that I imagine, I mean, certainly a fair amount of people have been putting a fair amount of thought into that as well. Yeah.
That's very cool. All right, so this section is called Dancing the Whole Dance. And I know there's a lot of questions about dancing with this. And Lindsay, I think we're going to give you a chance to bring up a few questions.
Sure. Okay. Well, one question that appeared a couple of times was the idea of how do you describe an improper dance when you're not using gender terminology? Ooh, my phone just wanted to answer that for me, but I prefer.
Hey Siri. No, I didn't really mean it. Stop.
So when it's really important to the dance that the dancers switch sides of the hall at either end, how would you describe that?
Well, first of all, I'd say it's never really important that dancers switch sides at either end of the hall.
Okay.
You know, that's a little bit of a different discussion, but first of all, if it doesn't matter what side of the dance you're dancing on, if it doesn't matter who you're dancing with, if it doesn't matter, if you're not hearing gender-based terms, the whole improper thing becomes immaterial. It just doesn't make any sense. In contra dance, the only reason would be if you really needed to keep the same role or wanted to keep the same role, then you can switch. But for English dance, I don't mention it. There are some dances that are written as improper dances, and I just don't say. I just have people line up and I just teach the dance. So, for example, Mary Kay, where it's an improper dance, so the first figure is normally called the women do blah, blah, blah. I would just say second diagonals, do the thing. New people on the second diagonal, do the thing. In set dances, there are some set dances, English set dances, that are written with either the ones starting improper or the twos or various people. And again, I teach the dance. After the first walkthrough, I say, some of you, you'll notice some of you have changed sides, and that is what is supposed to happen. Just like I would if it was a mixer, and I would say, you'll notice you've switched partners, and that's what's supposed to happen. So, you know, when I'm teaching it, you know, sort of further down along the teaching, it's like, when you go in or out of first place, you will switch sides. And for me, in whether it's contra or English for that matter, in duple minor sets or triple minor sets, you get to do both parts, especially dances that are that have diagonal or corner rolls that are different. So just like the dance, for those of you that know Fender-Larrick or Companions, if you're a first diagonal or a second diagonal, what you do is pretty different. And if you don't, if you just, you know, you get to do both of those things. Those aren't improper dances, but you get to have fun with, you know, exploring a different aspect of the dance. Same thing with an improper dance. Hopefully that answers that question pretty well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, so dancing the whole dance, I mean, that's the idea behind the improper dances. It's like, you don't restrict me to only half of the dance and, you know, make me switch sides so I only get to do that half of the dance, or make me only ever dance on one side of the dance. So I only get it. So I have taught, I developed a workshop called Dancing the Whole Dance. I taught it at Mendocino in 2003 and at CBS as English Week at Pinewoods in 2011. And it was an overt way to explore these ideas. more recently, I teach it as a one-shot, like hour and a half or to 3-hour workshop. And it's been super successful at festivals and weekends. I've done it a bunch in England. I did it in Australia, hi Jeanette, in 3 different places that I was there on tour. And it's much less threatening to people if you put forward, hey, we're gonna do a workshop. We're gonna spend time playing with an idea. And so it's not about, you know, you will do this and this is how we're dancing all forever, but we're gonna play with this idea. And people go, oh, that's pretty cool. I always get good, respectful conversations afterwards, even with people who disagree with the idea, either initially or still, and that's fine. And I was surprised by many people, especially some of the older Brits, who were like, yeah, that's a cool idea. And I wish we could, how can I figure out how to get my group to do that? So it's a great way to introduce the idea in a kind of a non-threatening way. And I take people through, you know, here are good dances that don't need translation. Try dancing on either side. Here are dances that need some translation. So, you know, mirror wall leads through the fireside or whatever. We talk about improper dances and how to form sets. Anyway, yeah.
Brooke, you write lots of choreography, and I'm noticing in the chats there's been a lot of conversation touching on things about what you do with your choreography. Talk to us a little bit about that, because you really sort of lead the charge with this.
Sure. Well, so yeah, Chris and I have written several dances to explore that idea of dancing the whole dance, or just making, if you will, people try dancing on either side. I think Lindsay, you've got a video of our dance Impropriety. This was done at a youth dance weekend quite a while ago now. Actually, one of our local dancers, Amazing Jaeger, was there and called it. So it should be coming up any moment. So this is where the one switch sides each time through the dance. So when it first came out, you know, people were lining up sort of traditionally. There's a figure, there's a move in here coming up in a moment, California Twirl, where, where sometimes it's 2 men doing the California Twirl together, and the other time it's the man's role and the woman's role, the man so, and I'm using those terms because that's kind of how things were. You've all heard some of you heard another improv at the beginning, and that was where the 2 switch sides, moving up the dance every time. So it's like, oh, we did it this way, now let's try that. We've also written a dance called Paul's Pet Peeve, which has everybody switching sides each time through the dance, although there's this partner turn that's 1.5, but I tell people, you can turn once, you can turn twice, you can turn however many times, so you can switch or not switch, you know, as you feel inspired in the moment. And then there's a dance called Through the Looking Glass, which we play the music, a beautiful waltz tune by Shira Kamen, or 3/4 tune. It's a square, it's a mixer, and you keep your same relative position with your new partner, but the dance is the mirror image. So it's got an open chain figure. So both roles do the open chain, and it's got a Schehalian reel, which is a Scottish figure, which is kind of a follow chase loop-de-loop thing that goes around. And so both, you know, both roles do each part within that. Yeah, so those are sort of the main fun ones that ring a bell right now as far as choreography. So there's just one other little bit about this performance. Sometimes, you know, I've had conversations with people and they say, well, you know, performance, you want to show historical accuracy, or you want to be able to see the pattern of the dance more clearly. And I think Lindsay's got a couple of photos. One of these is just back in the day, and you know, this is just based on I was in a small performing group, and we had these numbers of people. So this is picking up sticks. I'm there in the middle facing the camera. Oh, I was young. Oh my goodness. Anyway, it's like 2 men dancing together and 2 pairs of women dancing together, just as a way of just, yeah, we're not going to try to make all the men on one side and try to dress a woman as a man. We're going to show a different pattern. And then the other one, and I apologize for the crappiness of these 2 photos, but this is a dance of Chris and mine called Sun Return. And this is a collaboration with some modern dancers. And we decided, okay, we're going to have one side that's going to be in sort of reds with some purple highlights, and the other side that's going to be in blue tealy. And anybody could wear whatever black on the bottom they wanted, whether it was trousers or skirts or flowy, tight pant trousers, flowy trousers. And in the middle here, the fellow dancing with Chris, he had this beautiful sort of purple dress that he wore. So the idea is, looking at the pattern from color and opening it up so that as far as what it looks like, if you will, if that makes sense. Yeah. I'm no longer caught up.
I'm busy pushing buttons in the background. So, all right, let's go on to thing number 4. And, I want to say, I know there's a lot of questions and there's some great people out there answering in the chat, but we are copying your questions. And if they haven't been answered yet, they're certainly going to be brought up in the after talk. So don't feel like we're not giving you any attention, because we are. So, all right, thing number 4, come as you are.
Come as you are. Right. So come as you are basically means this is the 3rd piece of Carl's teaching, which was 1, language, 2, you can dance on either side with anyone, and 3, how you form sets. And the way we form sets, and I believe they still do at the JP English dance, and to some degree in Sun Assembly, it's shifted around a little bit, but if you want to dance, you come by yourself to the floor and you stand, and someone will stand opposite. You don't have to look around for a partner. You just come to the floor. And as a caller, I would say, well, I don't, when I'm calling out in the world, I don't ever say find another partner. I say thank this partner, mix about, take hands, whatever, from the top. And the set shuffles down and there's your partner. And it's a subtle difference that may not be, so that's what I do when I'm out in the world, and it may not be noticed, but it leaves room for non-partner ideas to filter in. And it's also real effective for getting sets formed. But the idea of just being able to come to the set, it rejects the idea that you have to be asked or find a partner, and it removes a lot of the sort of old fat single women left at the bottom of the set, or bad dancers left at the bottom of the set, or, whoever.
Brooke,
when I'm, yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say, the other thing when I'm calling out in the world, as if you will, I don't ask people to check the sidelines. I start the evening or the class or the weekend by letting people know, if you want to dance, stand up and come down to the floor. And so people don't have to go hunting for people to dance with. And you can assume that if you've chosen to sit out, you're actually wanting to sit out. And so you can be left alone in peace, which sometimes does not happen. And of course, I reiterate that as needed. In set dances, just want to tell this story real quickly if I can.
Sure.
Set dances, I don't say it's a 4-couple set dance. I say hands 8 from the top, great, make a square, or it's a long way set. And I'll say, oh, we need 2 more dancers over there. We need 3 more dancers over there. We need 1 more dancer over here, calling for the number of people rather than couples, so that people can come from wherever and fill the set. One time I was teaching, I think it was in Boston, and it was a square, and there were a bunch of squares formed, and there happened to be more men than women, I think, or at least there was. The only person left was a man sitting out, and there was a set that said, I was saying, you need 1 more person there. We need a woman, 1 more, we need a woman. And I said, you need 1 more person there. Art, you're a person. Can you be a person in that set? And, it's just like the idea is just come and dance. Okay, now we're good.
Well, and you know, we've got lots of questions flying. Lindsay, I'm going to let you ask some of these questions for us.
Great. Okay. So there are multiple questions kind of along the same lines. Question has to do with how do we let people progress down the line, and you know, maybe they're not the person we're expecting to come at us, or maybe we're expecting someone to come at us and then they're not that person that we're expecting. How do we as dancers adjust to that, and how do we as callers help people learn how to adjust to dancing with the people who are coming at them and not necessarily guiding someone to be where we think they should be in the dance?
Right. Well, yeah, not making assumptions is super helpful. And just being open to what is in the moment. And so, you know, the idea of, well, maybe it's the right person, maybe it's the wrong person. They're there, do the thing with them and figure it out. The idea that, you know, teaching people that mistakes are okay, that recovery is a good thing, you know, learning to recovery skills are good, that flexibility, you know, the person with the most flexibility has the most success. That nobody needs to be telling other people what to do. That helping can simply be like what I often will say, you know, you never touch anybody or tap if they're supposed to come to you and they have your back to them, don't tap them on the shoulder. You might just say, Brooke, and they'll turn around, or they won't. Or if somebody comes to you with a big grin on their face with their two hands out and they want to do a two-hand turn with you, do a two-hand turn with them. If somebody comes, you know it's a right shoulder hey, and they come at you with a left shoulder hey, you can angle your body like this, and if they don't catch the clue, just give them a left shoulder hey. So it may not flow as well into the next thing, but it'll still get you where you need to be, and you can recover. So I think a lot of that, teaching those kind of social dance skills is a huge thing. It's part of the organizer's job. I mean, I've been in a lot of different dance communities where there are posters up on the wall that say different things like, you know, avoid this, do that, you know, social skills that they want people to have, letting people know that mistakes are okay. So those kind of messages from the organizers, from the caller, not getting upset. And I mean, I know I've heard from callers, it's definitely easier for callers if there are equal numbers of people that look like this and people that look like that, and they're all dancing on their look like this side and look like that side. And you can see the pattern of the dance and you can tell if someone's wrong. Well, that's just not the world. And so you have to just say, okay, well, I'm not going to rely on that. And occasionally what I'll do is say, at this point, you should all be here. If you're not there, get there. Yep, you're holding up a card.
But only you saw that.
Oh, sorry.
Now we all
That's okay. The secret behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We're going to move into thing 5 because this is a lot of stuff to cover, and I know we have some questions that are going to come into this. So, as always, if we run a little late, just hang in there. We're still doing the after chat and stuff. So,
Yeah.
thing 5. A lot of people want to know about this. Moving forward, programming and organizing.
Yeah. And, you know, actually, I'm talking also about sort of dancing and teaching as well. But, you know, a lot of this, again, some of this is driven in part by LGBTQ plus social change ideas, particularly in the contra world. But the idea of gender-free or positional terminology is catching on in a bigger way. And some people aren't happy about it. Fair enough. If you're going into a group as a teacher and that group is set in a particular way, traditional way, then teach so they won't notice. That's what I like to do. I teach an evening, a wonderful evening of English country dance, where I choose my dances carefully so that nobody notices that they're not hearing words that they're expecting to hear. And, you know, I used to be super dogmatic about it back in the early days, 80s and 90s. And I just really discovered that that was not as helpful as just coming up with a good program and teaching. So I think we need to be respectful about why people are resistant. We need to have open discussions, treat people with respect. There's lots of reasons that we can work on as to why people or groups are unhappy. And different groups have different values. I think it was Alex, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but that back in the 80s, I think, was teaching at a gay square dance club and was putting forward, we're going to teach in this language. You know, we're not going to use gents and ladies. And a number of the, but we want to be called ladies. All right, that's the culture of your group. Fair enough. So, yeah, you know, I think a lot of people are interested in transitions from one thing, you know, from a traditional group to using gendered terminology, not positional terminology. So yeah, there's lots of things you can do. As a dancer, you can wear this button, which says I dance both roles. Mark Gallipo makes these. In England, there's also, Bob Morgan makes a different version of the same thing. You can ask, do you care what side you're on, or do you have a role preference? If someone asks me if I want to be the lady or the gent, I'll say either side is fine. I won't buy into the lady gent language, but I'll indicate nicely that I'm happy, whatever. We talked about dance with who's coming at you, avoiding over-helping, telling people they're in the wrong place and all of that. As a dancer, you know, be aware of who's around you and avoid role swapping if it's clear that that's going to super confuse the people you're just about to dance with. Leave positively worded messages in the suggestion box. Talk positively with the organizers, whether it's individually or as a group of dancers. Bring a bunch of friends with you who will model good dancing anywhere while being nice to people. Put pronouns on your name tags. That's a big thing, to just be open and welcoming. Be flexible, patient, forgiving, kind to a caller who's trying and making mistakes, who's used to calling gents and ladies or men and women or what have you. Appreciate the effort, especially, you know, established callers that are changing how they're teaching. Be supportive with their learning mistakes. So their mistakes aren't failures. Their mistakes are ways to help them learn. As a caller, as a teacher, and most of this is going to be focused on English, talk to the other callers in your community to see how they feel about it. Are you going to be able to work together to make a shift, or are you going to be doing your own thing to try and make a difference? Get training. Find resources, practice with friends to improve your teaching skills in general, because I think often people who are unhappy equate unskillful teaching with positional calling being a bad idea. There's a difference. So improve your teaching skills, and in particular, you know, build your skills on how to call without reference to gender roles. You can start by programming, like I said earlier, those excellent nights of dancing that you don't need to refer to mirror side, door side, or anything. Do dances like Impropriety that shake people up a little bit. Or there's a great dance, Half Hannikin, which is first edition, which is often done as an, you know, improper dance, but it's not meant, it's a whole set mixer. And so it's a long ways oval, and you just move all the way around the set. So you dance with everybody in the whole line. It's really fun. Those kind of things that just shake things up a little bit. And then as you build trust with the dancers, you can start adding things with low-key transitions, like gathering peascods. The ones go in and clap, the twos go in and clap instead of men and women. So, you know, for English in particular, if you don't try to substitute role names, if you use positional calling, you can do things. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Stop looking at the chat.
Brooke,
Yeah.
can we stop you and have Lindsay ask a couple of these questions, because we've had a lot of questions
Sure.
going past, and some that were written in that we just wanted to get into this part. So why don't we do that?
Okay.
Cool.
This has been
All right.
great. Thank you so much.
So one super popular question that at least 5 different people asked was, what's some advice for transitioning a group that's used to gendered or role identity specific calling?
Mm-hmm.
And what's some advice for transferring them over to a global positional type of calling style?
Right. Well, some of that I've kind of been already talking about. So, you know, some of it is like, if you're a dancer, here are things you can do. If you're a caller, here are things you can do. And so then the other big thing is the organizers. So dancers and callers can add their pieces. It's really, you know, the organizers. One, you pay attention to who you hire. If your group uses only local callers, talk to them about how they feel about it. If they or some of them aren't willing, see if you can bring in a guest caller occasionally that will use positional calling. Give them resources, like this talk on Colin's website when it's over, for example, or, you know, there's lots of stuff out there. The Heather and Rose website has terminology. The LCFD website has terminology that you can look at. Pay attention to how you publicize, including graphic images. If you put a graphic image of people in costume, clearly male, female, that's not going to really represent what you want. What you want to show is people that you can't really identify necessarily as anything in particular, dancing together without specific roles attached to them in placement. Hire a skilled guest teacher to do an exploratory workshop, like my Dancing the Whole Dance workshop, in combination with making sure that you do hire people to do those nights of dancing where you don't have to use gendered terms. I know that of some contra communities that are experimenting with a transition and saying tonight, you know, so for their posters and their Facebook pages and whatever, they'll say, on such and such date, the terms will be ladies and so-and-so's calling, the terms will be ladies and gents. On such and such night, so-and-so someone else is calling and the terms will be larks and robins, or positional terminology or whatever. And that, you know, and then seeing how many people come, how they react, what kind of comments there are, how much crossover there is, if people don't care and they want to dance, and evaluating as they go to sort of make that transition and decide to move in one direction or not. There are, you know, I think acknowledging to people that change is hard. Anyway, yeah, we're just, I mean, like we're out of time pretty much, but as always, I have way more to say than there is time.
Well, and we're going to have Lindsay ask one more question. Go ahead.
Yes. Beverly Francis just asked a really good question in the chat. Are there some dances you can suggest that are really easy to present with positional terminology?
Yes, I can email her those.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know that my brain, I mean, there's a whole slew of dances where you don't have to think of any kind of translation at all. And then there are others that that you will have to say door side, mirror side. So I'm not sure if that's what, Beverly, what you mean as far as what you're asking, but
Looks like everyone wants this list of to call.
Okay, so what I need is clarification on, are you looking at dances that do require some translation from, or are you looking at dances that don't require any translation?
Probably just easy dances to introduce to a community, or if you're a newer or nervous caller about bringing this in, what are those no-brainer dances that, oh, you can do this one, they'll love this, you can do this one. I would say that. And I'm going to make sure that we send out the links and this list of, Brooke's top 10 friendly dances or whatever she comes up with. And I'll make sure they go out to everyone, because I do have your email addresses and I know where to send you.
Okay.
All right. So let me just remind everybody, we have an after talk that's going to start 2 minutes after this program ends, or by 2 minutes. As soon as this ends, we jump right in. So make sure you stick around for that and register first, because we're trying to prevent Zoom bombers. Larry and Renee are posting those links, and we are bringing in all these questions that you asked into that after talk. So we will be asking them. Thank you, Brooke. It's been great.
Thank you.
It's been a lot. Yeah.
There's so much to talk about.
There is. Then we have another hour, so no worry. And thank you to my Five Things team, Lindsay, for running media and sorting through questions and all that work she does in the background. To Renee Turner for helping us on Zoom and dealing with pasting and posting and copying and all those things. And Larry Hansen, who's on Facebook. The After Talk link should have been posted by now, and they'll post it again, I'm sure. And coming up this week and next and in the future, next week we have Bridget Whitehead.
Yay!
Whitehead, yeah, she's great. She's a younger voice in our community, founder of a bi-weekly English country dance group in Ontario, Canada, and she now lives in Oregon area with her husband. They co-lead youth English country dance events, I did the same thing you did. I lost people in that area. In addition to her dance background, Bridget has a degree in education and a knowledge of music theory, yoga, and Pilates. So we are going to be talking about moving your body during this time when we're not dancing all the time. The registration is now open and it's posted in the chat boxes. Coming this Saturday, it's not our event, so don't write to us and ask us about it. It's a caller workshop with Colin Hume, put on by Scissortail Traditional Dance Society in Oklahoma, and we are posting information about that. And then next month on our third Saturday historical dance chat, which Colin Hume was on just this past week, we're going to have Allison Thompson. And if you don't know who she is, take a moment to check out her blog and you'll go, oh, I should know who she is. And you're going to really like that a lot. The registration is up for that all month long. Brooke, of course, says please donate to CDSS and also check out the CDSS freelancers page, share the love, send the love, and support your local musicians and organizations that might need it during this time. We want everybody to be back and running when this is all over. Our exit music is, guess who? Of course it's Roguery. Musicians, as I told you, Anita Anderson, Dave Bartlett, Shira Kamen, Jim Oakton. The dance is Gingerbread. The tune is, oh boy, Kupara Eva, a Finnish polka. A polka, we like a polka. And it's on the CD, Sweet Mischief, Volume 5. We are going to play out with this and see everybody in just about 2 minutes, okay? See y'all.